At 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. I believe we have everyone here with the exception of Ms. Jones. Appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. We've got quite a bit of business to go over. First order of business is review the minutes from March 17th and March 21st. We can, I believe, take a motion to approve both. Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford makes a motion to approve both sets of minutes. Mr. Harsh makes a second. Any questions, concerns, additions, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we'll go over the county trustee reports and financial summaries for ending March, or our 9th month. That puts 3 quarters under our belt in this budget, and looking at 75% is your figure that you're looking at, of course, as far as your comparisons to see how we stand in comparison. Our 101 general fund, looking down it, everything seems to be, I guess we can say, as expected. Is there anything that jumps out at you have questions about, Mr. Ford?
I'm just curious to know why the business taxes dropped so much.
We'll receive most of that in May. For some reason, they like to renew their, they haven't come in yet. They like to do that in May.
Right.
What about bank excise tax?
I believe that is a June payment.
To answer your question, sir.
I'm sorry, I do have it noted that it's in March, so that'll show next month.
The excise tax, yes, March. Any other questions on the 101? Seeing none. Our total, we're at year to date, $5,578,827. About 82% of our budgeted figure. Sure, there will be some revenues, additional revenues coming in toward the last few quarters. 101 general. Let's see. Don't see, I didn't make any notes on anything. Did anyone see anything that looked out of line? It's quite a bit under the budgeted amount on expenditures. Any questions on it? We'll move on into urban services. They're pretty smack on at 74.6% on your revenues versus 75%. There again, there's a few things that come in a month late that are reflected there, and expenditures are quite a bit under budget at 42%. That's on your urban services fund. Any questions on that one? Next, solid waste 116 fund. Revenues are quite a bit up, and expenditures are at 54%. Any questions on that one? All right, we'll move on to the 118 ambulance service fund. Revenues are at 81%. Expenditures are at 60%. Any questions, comments? I think this is the way we like to see things. 121 fund is the
Mr. Joe.
CTA pastor. I'm sorry.
On the ambulance service,
Mhm.
has a new ambulance been ordered?
No, because it's coming out of ARPA funds. It won't come out of the 118 fund.
Come out.
That's why it's not showing up there. 121, pass through on Core Civic. 122, drug funds, same thing. These are fines and forfeitures that came in through the court system. Has to be used for drug enforcement. Typically, the sheriff typically waits till the end of the year to see how much funds has come in and uses them toward the last quarter. They have a better idea of what's going to actually be in that fund. Is that correct, Sheriff? Okay. Any questions on that one? 151, our debt service. Revenues are quite a bit up. We're finally beginning to see some of the litigation tax and things of that nature come rolling in, where the court system was somewhat neutered by COVID and they weren't able to do all the cases. And so we're beginning to see that made up. I believe that is reflected in those figures there. Yes. That's from Core Civic. That's the administrative fee that we negotiated. Okay. Interest as expected for a lot of reasons. Inflationary cycle, and the Fed is trying to raise interest rates to try to slow down some of this, and that's going to be reflected in our variable interest loans. But you can see that it's been less than 0.2% or thereabouts. So it's not taking any dramatic increase, although it is trending up. I expect that to happen for at least the remainder of this year. I don't think any of us have a crystal ball, but that's what they're telling us is likely to happen. Education debt service, very similar situation there. Highway fund runs a month behind as far as your revenues coming in, and expenses, they have quite a few in the last quarter. Some of their bridge things and things of that nature has been my experience with that fund. Any questions on this? Mayor, do you have anything you wanted to add on any of this? We appreciate the job that you and all the department heads are doing as far as holding line on the budget. And
I would just say, just keep in mind as we move forward in the next budget year with the inflation that we've seen being so high, and particularly in fuel and some other areas, we're going to see an increase in some of the side in our next budget as we go through that. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. But as far as what you've seen here, no, again, like you said, I think the department heads are really being fiscally responsible with their funds.
thank you, sir. Amy, do you have anything you need to make us aware of? Coming into the last quarter, we typically have quite a few cleanup measures. We do know that we're going to have some, particularly on commodity type things like gasoline, diesel. Some of the food costs have escalated, things of that nature. So just be prepared for that. Looks like we're going to be in a good position to be able to deal with it, but that's more than likely coming our way in the next couple of months. Mr. Ford, you had a question?
Just a comment. I called Miss Amy this morning and had her do you a sheet like this right here. That shows you how much is outstanding that the county owes, all except the one at the top, the QSCB, the state's paying that, so we don't owe that. So if you look down here under that, county is really in pretty good shape as far as debt. if you take that other off of that, then you're looking maybe around 5 million. And that's better than it's been in a long time. And I also noticed that they finished paying that truck off too over in debt service. If you look in your debt service, that was 100% paid off. So we really don't have but about 4, I believe it is, 4 outstanding debts that we're having to pay on. And I don't know how we'll be standing at the end of the year, because I know some of your payments haven't been made yet. They come in later, don't they, Amy, on your debt service? So we may be sitting in shape where we might be able to pay a little bit more. Probably, I think next year that the administrative building will be paid off too, won't it, Amy?
I had intended to get into that on discussion items, but since we're already on it, if you look at the second column from the left, balance owed, that was what we owed starting this fiscal year, July 1st this year. This will be our ending balance at the end of this year. If you do, like Mr. Ford said, take the school loan, the top one off of it would be more like $4 million total in debt instead of 5. But the thing that I think that we could do, that we might want to consider doing, is possibly going ahead and if we're going to try to accelerate any of this, I believe that we'd have the funds left in the fund balance to possibly go ahead and pay off the administrative building. At the end of the year, there'll be about $87,000 left on that note. Our best projections on our fund balance, depending upon these cleanup entries, we should be ending the year with about $1 million in fund balance. So I think it would certainly be prudent to look at the possibility of going ahead and taking care of that one and just knocking it out. That's one thing we'd intended to do, was the debt snowball, try to clean up some of the smaller entries, and so that you could roll that money into the bigger ones later. Yes, sir, Mr. Ford.
That 87,000, if it's paid off this year, probably be less than that, because that includes interest, I think.
No, those are the principal payments, but just to clarify, because I think it was misstated, these are that 7/1/22 column is as of July 1st this year. So beginning the 2023 fiscal year. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. So if you did want to pay off the administration building next year, that'll be the 157,000 total. So we have it budgeted to pay 70,000 in principal this year, but we'll need to pay another 87 along with that.
Additional funds would be the 87,000.
And then there's also a penalty fee, which I think is about 1% of the loan. Is that correct? Can you remember?
Is this the one where they said if we paid it at a certain time, there wouldn't be a penalty, but if we don't pay it in that little window, there would be a penalty?
I think that's the same loan.
I think they were supposed to get back to that, to us with that, and say exactly what that window was and clarify that.
Okay.
But I would also point out, not only would we have the 70,000 in principal that we were already going to look to put towards that, but we also got those other amounts we were paying on, as you mentioned, the debt snowball and the trucks and everything, but we were already going to roll into that. So you might need to put just a few, maybe 20, 30,000 more dollars with that and go ahead and pay off the administration building next year. So that's how we're doing the debt snowball. And then we'll move on to the next debt in line.
So you don't think we need to tackle it in this year? Wait till next year? Is that what you're saying?
I think, and I don't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was after the beginning of the next fiscal year, as far as when the time frame was. There was like a few months, I don't know why it's structured this way, but there's like a month or two window that if we pay it off inside that window, there's not a penalty. If we pay it off outside of that, there is a penalty. I don't know why that is, and he was supposed to get back to us and give us a little bit more clarity on that.
Okay, just check on it and get us some information as to when we could, what we would save if we do. If we have to pay a penalty that's more than what the interest is, there's certainly no reason to do that, or even equal to it. We put it towards something else that we can do. If you could get us that information, that would be good. Anything, Ms. Jones?
I'm thinking, and y'all might not agree with this, but with the economic climate like it is, the uncertainty, we might need to consider that before we tackle paying off large bills.
I don't want to be, Debbie Downer, but I think we've got some hard times ahead of us. The way things are going, surely they won't last, but they could. Like I said, one of my favorite sayings, I don't have a crystal ball, and it's hard to be conservative and have the debt. It's hard to be conservative and try to pay off the debt, which is the best course of action. And that's why we have everybody to make those decisions. And I think we can look at it, though. I think it's very, very, at least in my mind, prudent for us to look at it and see if it's a possibility. And we may decide that certainly it's not what we need to do. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. That was good input. Anyone else? I would entertain a motion to approve the trustees report and financial summaries. Ms. Jones makes a motion. We have a second. Mr. Ford makes a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Move into our budget amendments. Mr. Ford, thank you for, and Amy, thank you for putting this together and bringing it to our attention. It's good information. Certainly going toward the end of the year, this is one thing that we had said we were going to try to do is to look at this and see if it was any way we could do something with it. First budget amendment is 2022-101-36. To that page, so I don't misstate it. This is insurance recovery money on a sheriff's vehicle. Where the money's coming in from insurance recovery and repair of the budget, the vehicle. It's just an in and out on the budget. Any questions on that one?
Mr. Gill.
Okay. Mr. Gregory makes a motion to approve this, send it to the full body. Mr. Clarity?
I had a question.
Okay.
Who does the repairs for these, Sheriff? Blankenship does them all.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Mr. Walsh makes a second. Okay. Any further discussion on it? Any further questions? Yes, Sheriff. Thank you for that information. Amy? Okay. Please, Sheriff, you're going to have to jump up and use the mic or sit over at one of the chairs so you can. If you would, go ahead and tell us what you just said. I heard you, but I'm afraid everybody else didn't.
Yeah, the vehicle damage we've been experiencing here lately is a lot of crashes we've had in pursuit of vehicles, where the vehicles have actually ran into our patrol cars trying to get away. And that's what most of the damage has come from. We've had more damage in the past couple of years than we've had 20 years. Everybody wants to run over us, looks like.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, do you have a pursuit policy?
Yes, we do.
And I guess the supervisor has the ability to terminate if it's.
Yes, we will terminate, depending on the situation where we're at. We terminate a lot of times, especially when we get into other counties. Other counties won't pursuit, have no pursuit policy, will not pursuit. But depending on which county we're going into and the terrain and where we're at, we don't want to jeopardize somebody else's life and the situation we're in. Depends on what they've done too.
I was gonna say, and what they're wanted for. Okay,
That's
thank you.
right. Mhm.
Further questions on this? We do have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll send this one on to the full body with a recommendation favorable recommendation. Next, BA 101-37 Workhouse. This budget amendment is to the county general fund. This is the sale of recycled materials. if the workhouse, the work crew picks up aluminum and aluminum cans and things, they resell them. And then this is just where they're wanting to allocate those monies into separate funds. There again, it's an in and out. Any questions on it? Okay. We can probably take all of these at one time. Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
Figures show you're crediting more than you're debiting in this one. Is that correct?
Nope, that is not. I am so sorry. You can take 200 out of vehicle repairs. Would that be okay? Or
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, what this is aluminum cans that the inmates picked up on the side of the roads when we pick it up litter. And we collect those and sell them for recycled materials. And we purchase equipment. I think we bought 2 weed eaters and some more stuff with it, maybe some water.
No, sir. I just want to make sure the figures were correct. We got to watch this paperwork pretty closely.
Okay.
Appreciate you catching that, Mr. Buckmaster. You're exactly right. A little clerical on it. We're sure that the $1,012 figure is the correct figure for what the money was. Just if you would change that $800 figure to 6, and then that'll give you a correct total of 1,012 at the bottom. Everyone okay with that? Without objection, that's what we'll do. We'll correct the figures. Okay. We'll go through all these and do them at once, or take each one individually. We've already done one of them. Okay, let's just move them on. Okay. Next one is election grant. This is monies that came in through the state toward funding the elections, an amount of $25,000. Putting this into election contracted services and other equipment, $5,000. There again, it's an in and out, $25,000. Any questions on this one? Okay. BA 13102, 2022 13101 FB. This is in the Highway 131 fund. This is our state aid where they're paying to retrace or repaint some pavement markings. These are on our state maintained county roads. And there again, this is a grant coming in, or money coming in from the state for this purpose. Just putting it in the right category to spend it. Any questions on that one? I believe that's all the budget amendments. So entertain a motion. We've already passed the first one, but Mr. Ford makes a motion and Ms. Atwood gets a second. Are there any questions on any of these? Motion to send these to the full body with a favorable recommendation. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. They are approved. Lastly, we have a Arpa spending. This is coming out of the ARPA funds, 12803. This is for the matching funds for the TDAC grant, I believe it was, that we had on the park. Because of the price increases, I feel like that they're going to increase the grant amount, and we need to increase the our matching funds. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gully, you're recognized.
So this grant has gone from 98,000 to 123. Is that what we're looking at right now?
That should be correct. And this is totally an increase due to the cost of materials and everything. So that's what we can only use it for. So the state's going to put in an additional 25 and we put in an additional 25.
More questions? Okay. Anyone else have a question? Okay. Mr. Ford?
Does this figure include the rubber chips?
No, this is the ADA improvements to the parking lot and then the sidewalk and then that play equipment up front. This is separate from that as far as expenditures go.
Have you got those chips ordered yet?
We had a meeting, I think on the 7th with TDEC, and they're supposed to come up and do a site visit and give us a little bit of guidance on that. So I'm waiting for them to schedule that, but I do have working on RFP to get that to go. I'm just waiting for them to come up and give us some feedback before we do that.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are they gonna hold that price of what they quoted on that? On those chips?
On the quotes, I have no idea. We're gonna have to rebid it because it's over $10,000 on the purchasing policy and state law. We have to rebid, we're gonna have to bid that out anyway. So that's why we have to do an RFP to get that out.
Anyone else? Okay,
Mr. Jewell,
yes, sir.
so on the cost we're talking of right here for the ADA pieces, I understand materials have gone up. I understand that we're roughly increasing this by $50,000, which was roughly I think it was 98,000, if I remember that correctly. Have we looked at what those costs are? Have we looked at, is this 50,000 going to cover it? Are we going to be asked, and the only reason I say this is I sit here and learned on the first grant when we did the improvements out here of our, around our courthouse here, area of the road improvements here. And we started off at about 70,000 to match that and it ended up closer to 200,000. Do we have any idea if this is really going to be there, or do we just need to hold off and say, when we get to this point that it's done, or is the state saying you've got them going and match this 25 now?
The state is saying if we will match their 25,000, they'll do an additional 25,000.
So basically, we're spending 25 to get 50. Or we're spending 25 to get 25.
And I will say, when we talked to them, they said they don't know if it's going to be more than that or less than that. They just said at the end of this project, if the project comes in less than that, then any unused funds obviously goes back. So we would retain, if you do this additional 25 and you only need 15 of it, well, then we keep the other 10 and the state keeps their 10.
Any other questions? We have a motion to approve. Mr. Ford makes a motion to approve. Mr. Gregory makes second. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Have one no. Motion does carry. Think under discussion items, head down, we had asked Amy to get us some figures at our last meeting on payroll increases going into the next budget year. Some ideas, some estimations of what they would be based on 2.5%, 5%, and 7%. You have this sheet is a summary or total. This sheet breaks down each department individually, in case you want to know individually departments by position, not by name, but by position, so that you have a better idea what we're looking at. Broke it down for the percentages. Some of it comes out of different funds, 101, 111, 118, things of that nature, so that you have an idea of where this money would be going. I hope this is the information that everyone was requesting. I feel like it is. If it's not, please let us know. If there was something additional that you need, not necessarily, we could make a decision on it tonight. we're certainly gonna have to make a decision on it very quickly so she can prepare the budget figures going forward. Hope we can come to some resolution on this tonight, but if we can't, we can't. Everybody understand the figures in front of you and what they're based on? That's my first question. Is this the information that you needed? I know it's just presented to you, but is this the information that we needed? I think it was. Okay. Jump in, somebody. Questions. Where do we want to go with this? You see where we're at. First column, 2022 last year, and if we go 2.5%, what it will be, and the estimated for the 5% and 7%. We got your grand totals. She provided a difference so that you know how much additional that's going to be. Also tried to give an estimation of what it would raise your tax levy base to accomplish this. In penny value, that's your center pink line item there. And yes, that's, Amy, can you explain it better than that? You put it together. So what did I leave out? What did I overlook? It's a lot of information because we asked for a lot of information. We asked for a lot of options. So you've got a lot of options there.
Mr. Jewell.
And if there's any questions on how you want this explained, I'm open. Mr. Clarity?
Mr. Clarity.
Are we sure that that's going to be the penny value?
That is what is the estimated penny value right now, according to Mr. Potts.
We are not sure, but that is his best estimation.
Well, it could be higher or lower.
It could be.
So we don't.
It more than likely will vary a bit.
That's what I'm figuring.
Substantially, probably not.
But
Evidently, he put a lot of time into trying to come up with that figure. I mean, it wasn't just something we asked him. He said, that's what it is. You know, he took several days trying to come up with that figure for us.
There's really no hurry on doing this tonight, is there? Since we don't have, just got this and hadn't studied over all of it, and budget hearings are coming up, what, in the next few weeks?
That's why I said we do not have to do it tonight.
I mean,
I wanted discussion on it tonight to just, you know, if there were general questions or if there was other information that was needed, I think was more where I was coming from. Mr. Gully, you're recognized.
One question with the two raises we just gave, one to EMA and one to Sheriff's Department. Is that figured into this $2.02 and 61,000, say, I guess you want to call it, of dollars or pennies that we're talking about a 5-cent raise?
So
5.61 cents raise?
those adjustments are included in that blue column. What I did, and this is what took me so long on it, I used those amounts to put them on the pay scale that everybody approved last month and adjusted their pay grade or their pay step. So it more closely aligned to what they were making with that adjustment, with all the increases.
Leading to that, then the blue line on the piece that we have here titled FY23, I think is what it is, staples to it, payroll schedule draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
The blue line of that is including the raises at this point for those two areas.
That includes
And
the adjustments.
includes the adjustments that would happen based just solely on the step that
No,
individual would be at.
no, that's the 2020. This is this current year with those adjustments that have been approved.
The next one.
So your next one that you need to look at is on your major schedule.
Without.
Is that red column that includes everybody on the pay scale and adjusted to 2.5% with the adjustment.
Okay, what's the one that says 2023, 2.5% without scale? What is that?
So that is in case the odd question came up, what would a 2.5 increase be for everybody without the scale?
You're talking about without the steps.
Correct.
Scale.
Without being on the pay schedule, that is, what is the 2.5 for everybody?
So no one changed at all by going to the step of step 11, step 5, step 6. It didn't change their salary at all.
Right, it's taking that 2022 and multiplying that by 2.5, and that's it. There's no schedule, there's no, somebody being on grade 9. It is what we're currently making times 2.5%.
So they weren't on a step before, but now that put them on that steps, what you're saying.
Right, the red, green, and orange columns puts them on that schedule.
I guess I'm trying to understand something here. How did a $13 an hour top on their codes? How did $13 an hour go to 1628? Did they change steps? Did they, I don't
No.
get how 2.5%.
Now that one, that's actually, okay. So your blue column, nobody's on a schedule, nobody's on the step, nobody's on a grade level. That is what we're currently making. There you go. So your gray column, what we're currently making, no grade, no step, 2.5%. It's an insult. I'm just going to put that out there. And then your red column, we are on the schedule, we're on a grade level, we're on a pay step.
So, and I appreciate the document I got in front of us. What would that red look like without at a 0% change, but we've moved to the step and the schedule?
I do not have those numbers because I was not asked for a 0.
I think we need that number, honestly, folks. Because as we can see there, listen, I'm just straight up being honest here. It ain't 2.5% that we're talking about. We're talking about 2.5% on top of the step that we're moving here. So a $13 an hour went to a 1628. That ain't 2.5%. Pretty quick. We understand that piece. I do remember you being asked to do a 2.5%, a 5%, and a 7%, and you did do that. I appreciate that, but I think we need to see it so that we can see that number as a 0 at that point, because we are already giving a raise inside with this step and schedule.
Right, and also remember that once you're put, a lot of these positions, some of them were being underpaid. That's probably one of them. So when they got put on that schedule, yeah, they're going to bump up quite a bit. I remember there's one that there's not going to be any change for that person. I think maybe 20 cents. So, some are correctly graded or correctly paid right now, if you want to put it that way. Some are way underpaid. So that's another thing to look at too.
I guess my next question, so the blue column now is where those individuals in the EMA and in the Sheriff's Department are currently at with the new raise that we've given. And then this would be an additional raise. So in other words, if I'm looking at EMA director, he just got a $2 raise. So we went from 28.37 to 30.37. And if we went to the 2.5, we're going to go to 34.81. So we went from 28 to 34.81, a little over a $6, right at a $6 and some change raise is what we're talking about. Okay, just making sure we're clear there.
Ms. Jones?
So is it my understanding that the pay step is what to get them equal to what they should be making in comparison to counties around and their job description? And then the other, the 2.5, 5, and 7% is like their cost of living adjustment because of inflationary. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I believe you're correct.
That is correct. So I'll explain a little bit more. What I also did, I took what we were suggested to use on the pay scale. Because the information was outdated, I did bump everybody up one step. Because that will at least get it off the year-old data that we had, if that makes sense. And then that's what I based the 2.5, the 5, and the 7.
That was to try to make it more reflective of what it should be by this time.
Correct.
In stating that one more time, you already bumped each of these a step.
So in your first orange column, you can see the pay grade, the step per the study, and then a 2023 step. So if you take that first line, that person should be a grade 6. The study says they should start at a 2. I went ahead and bumped them up to a 3, and then that's what your red, green, and orange columns are based on.
I see hands on buzzers. No one's. Anyone else? Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
I want to clarify between the statement Mr. Gully made and what my understanding is. And it's just for clarification, where he pointed out the EMA director just got $2 an hour raise. It's my understanding the EMA director did not get the raise because he's salaried.
Merely, I was looking at, we're talking about pieces there from numbers to numbers, trying to get an idea on understanding of numbers, but I do see what you're saying. But I thought he still got a raise, not the bonus. To my understanding, he still got the raise, not a bonus is the difference.
Mayor, would you like to clarify that, please?
When the discussion was being held for the EMS, the positions being discussed for EMT, AMT, and paramedic. That's what all the numbers were presented on. That's what the justification was based on, was those positions that needed to be done. And when the motion was made, that was the basis of discussion, was those positions. So that was my understanding. That's what it says in the minutes, was that it was for paramedics, EMTs, and AMTs by $1.04 an hour immediately effective March 9th, 2022. So that's what we based it on. That's the number you were given, was based on what we were given by Director Beatty. The numbers he came back with comparison to other counties was EMTs, AMTs, and paramedics. And that was the basis of discussion. That's where he was having these issues with staffing, and it was said that we were doing an immediate increase to address those positions.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Gully.
Jewell, moving on one more piece back. The other option we have here, the payroll options, where it tells us how much money it might cost us additionally on our penny and change. The blue column, 2022 annual with adjustment, that is what we would currently, what's that with adjustment?
EMS and sheriff, where we increase them.
So that's the adjustment.
Yes.
So that's our 2022.
Is that the
with
only
that.
adjustment? That, I think should, yes,
Yes. So that's all that's in that.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless there was another increase approved that I'm not aware of.
Anyone else? Certainly, if you have further questions, just ask Amy. She's real good about answering her telephone. And it's kind of complicated, but kind of simple too. Matter what we want to do going forward. But let's just take a look at this and digest it. Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, I have a question, and it relates back to what we were just discussing as it relates to the ambulance service. And I understand the targeting of certain individuals that we were concerned about in the job market. And I know the director has been effective, I guess, in a way, where it stayed the same. Who all missed out? I know we talked about paramedics and EMTs. So who is left that did not become affected by the recent raise?
Understanding the only person that was affected by it's Director Beatty because he's salaried. You know, we addressed this as $1 per hour wage. He's not paid per hour wages. Much like the sheriff he's of course an elected official, but he's a salaried when those raises didn't apply to him. It's one of those unfortunate situations, but there's a salary position. Not everyone can be in a salary position, first of all. And one of the things that you maybe lose out on is some of the things like we're talking about. But also if he, for whatever reason, worked 30 hours this week, he still gets his pay for his full amount of time. So there is a bit of a trade-off there. And I've been in positions where I was salary. I've been in positions where I was hourly. I was in a position where I was salaried with the county, and the county commission decided to pay me hourly wage. I said, thank you very much. You just gave me a huge raise. And they did. Didn't know it, didn't mean to, but they did, because I worked many, many more hours than what the 40-hour-a-week work was to get the job done, because you wouldn't get me any help at that time. So that's, you know, sometimes you get caught in those situations. It's one of those things you can't have it both ways. It's those saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. Is it unfair? In a way, it's unfair. In another way, it's very fair. But it's just, that's the way the situation, that's the why. Whether you agree with it or not, that's the why. And I think it's a valid why. Don't agree with it. I think the man should have got more money. But that's not what he presented to us. That's not what he asked for. And that's not what you voted to do. So if we want to correct that, we brought this up I think, since then, and didn't vote to do anything. I believe we had a motion to try to take care of that from Ms. Jones, if I remember correctly, and couldn't get a second. But there again, we can think on this some more if we want to, but that's the why. I hope that answers the question in everybody's mind as to why it was done that way.
No, my question was really who all was missing on this? Being the directors wanted salary, but did we unintentionally miss somebody else? I know we were really concerned about the ones that were on the front lines, but I'm just wondering, who did we possibly leave out?
There were
That's my
two
question.
drivers and your office manager.
In that job class.
They were not in those job classifications. He did not present those positions to the committee.
The problem that was presented to us was mainly paramedics and EMTs.
Tommy McFarland too.
Well, I believe that discussion, as far as what Ms. Jones' motion made, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Commissioner Jones, I think that was for the ARPA bonus, wasn't it? That was not the pay, that was the ARPA bonus. Okay.
That was on the bonus. I stand corrected. Yes. Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
I hate to disagree, but I'm gonna have to. On February 22nd, Budget and Finance, I began the discussion calling out agencies, which included EMS and Sheriff's Department. Mr. Beatty presented it as EMS personnel. On that video at 1 hour, 32 minute, 40 second, even the mayor stated, if your motion is $1.04 for all current employees. At 134.13, Mr. Jewell said all EMS personnel, repeated at 134.28. We voted on it unanimously, all EMS personnel. Mr. Jewell then stated this would be ready for the commission meeting for February 28th, 2022. Although on that February meeting, it apparently wasn't ready because we voted on it without paperwork. And it was presented then as all EMA personnel across the board. That was at 2 hours and 50 seconds. 2 hours, 5 minutes and 13 seconds, it was presented that way again. EMA personnel across the board. Now, we brought it back at the March meeting and nobody ever questioned it. Although I did see in the March meeting, the budget amendment did say medical personnel. My apologies, I did not read it. I thought it was a formality. It was a done deal across the board. All EMS personnel, all current employees, never once did it say EMTs or paramedics.
I don't have those minutes in front of me, so I can't comment on that. Mayor, would you like to interject?
Well, again, I'll go back to the February 22nd meeting. At that point, everything that had been presented was EMTs, AMTs, and paramedics. And the justification for going ahead and doing an immediate increase at that time was that the vacancies we had and the recruiting problems we were having. And that's why it was to go ahead and do it at that time. I believe Commissioner Baker even later asked, are we going to do this? Are we going to do an immediate increase for all employees? And the justification was, again, if you're calling somebody to come because you're having a medical emergency, we need these positions to respond. And that was the justification for doing it. So that's all the discussion that was had was EMTs, AMTs, and paramedics. There was nothing ever presented on any other positions. It was just those. Now, if we're going to go back and do it and expand it beyond that, well, there are some staff that do not respond to calls and do not do those responses for 911 calls. Are you going to now do the increases for their employees for the county? Because now you've expanded it beyond what was the justification was originally. And again, when I said, are you going to do it for all employees? The all employees was all the ones that was being presented at that time, which the scales given the comparisons to other counties was EMTs, AMTs, and paramedics. And there was nothing stated about, well, I want to do this for paramedics. I want to do this for EMTs. I want to do this for AMTs. That's why I asked, are you doing it for all of them? That's what I meant. Maybe I should have clarified that, but that's what I thought the discussion was on.
Yeah, I don't remember the other personnel that ever being brought into that discussion, clerical or any of those. Were they? Do y'all remember if they were included in that discussion? I don't. I mean, were they called out in their job descriptions? It's my question.
Was stated all EMS personnel, all personnel across the board, all current employees. I watched about 6 hours worth of videos to get that.
I understand the word all, but I'm saying with those job descriptions, those, when we were talking about EMT and paramedics, did Mr. Beatty mention, did he use the term all personnel? Did he specifically say, I need this also for my clerks and my drivers or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I don't remember. I'm asking a question. I'm not making a statement. I'm truly asking a question because I understand what the mayor's saying, that all that was of discussion was that. Now, I'm not questioning what you found out what the motion was. I understand that. But I'm just saying, was that ever in anyone's mind, those other personnel as part of it? Some of you are saying yes. Some of you are saying, I don't have a clue. I just, we can go back and revisit this. It's as simple to make an amendment to it to include those personnel if that's what we feel like we need to do. Certainly not that big an issue. I wouldn't think it would be that many millions of dollars involved with it. So you want us to try to see what that would entail in dollars to do that, and then bring it back before you to see if that's something that we want to try to rectify, for lack of a better word. That would be my recommendation on it, but Ms. Jones. Make a motion to get some figures together, find out what it would cost and how we can fund this for all personnel. We mean clerks, drivers, director, postman, whatever, everybody. Okay. You have them now? Okay. She says she has them now. Let's hold off on the second. Go ahead and let us know. We might want to amend it.
So for one person, it's $695 for 3 people, which would be the 2 drivers and the office manager, billing manager, whatever her title is $2,085, and that includes benefits.
That total for the rest of this year. Okay, give us those figures one more time. Please.
$695 a person, that includes benefits. There are 3 positions that were omitted from that increase. So that is, what did I just say?
Does that include the director?
That does not include the director.
Okay, that's just those 3 positions. Okay.
So the total is $2,085 for Fund 118.
2,185?
$2,085.
$2,085 total.
All right, I'll try it again.
Do it just a second. Ms. Jones, your motion, did you want to amend your motion? Or? Okay, so your motion now is to include those people and pay them this amount of money?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gully?
In the sheriff's department raise, we did give that to all employees in the sheriff's department. Is that correct?
God, I hope so.
Me and you both.
Yes, we did. That is how Sheriff Russell presented it.
Okay. Do we have a second to Ms. Jones' motion?
Oh.
Mr. Buck? Yes, sir, Mr. Burton.
Mr. Buckmaster can have this one because evidently I screwed up the first one royally, so I'll give this one to Ken.
Mr. Buckmaster makes a second. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Everybody understand what we're doing? This will come out of fund balance, correct? Okay, this will be a budget amendment to be presented next Monday night in this amount for this purpose. Okay?
Does this include the director?
No, sir. Just the 3 employees that were overlooked at this point. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is done. We will try to have that for you Monday. We will have that for you Monday night. Okay. Thank you. Any other business to come before us tonight? That's all I had. Public comments. Anyone from the public like to comment? See none. Mr. Walsh?
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Second, Ms. Jones. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Take about 5 minutes and we'll get started here. Just a few minutes late on work session. 6:58. Give me 5 minutes.